Hello everyone and welcome back to Ops on Cloud. I'm Vinay Murli Mohan and this is our Cloud Mastery series part 3 where we dive into cloud service models. Today we will explore the fundamentals of IaaS, PAAS, SaaS and FAAS walkthrough with real world use cases and compare a hands-on deployment. So let's jump right in. So here's what we will be covering in this episode. Cloud service models overview. We will define each model, deep dive into each model, learn the specifics and when to use them, choosing the right model, key considerations for our projects, and hands-on deployment comparison. We will compare IaaS and PaaS deployment steps. We will take a simple web application. We will try to see how it differs. By the end, you will have a clear idea of which service model is best for your business or project. So, to start with, right? Let's start with four main categories of cloud services. Infrastructure as a service. This is where you rent virtualized computing resources like servers, storage, and networks that do on demand. So, the providers usually here include AWS EC2, Azure Virtual Machines, and Google Compute Engine. So these are some of the services that has been provided by the cloud providers, where you will have a full control on what you can do with the resources. It is just you are renting it out and using for your deployments. And we'll have a platform as a service where this offer a fully managed platform to develop, run and manage applications you without dealing with any underlying infrastructure. Examples would be AWS Elastic Beanstalk, Azure App Services, and Heroku. The other model would be software as a service, where it delivers fully functional software over the internet. The examples would be Office 365, Google Workspace, and Salesforce. Another model would be function as a service, often called as serverless, where you run event driven functions without managing servers. Some of the services in this category would be AWS Lambda, Azure Functions, Azure Logic Apps, and Google Cloud Functions. Each model provides a different level of control, management, and flexibility. Here is a chart where you can see the key characteristics of these models and the popular services in these categories and best use cases, how you can choose what kind of service models for your implementation in the cloud. Okay. Next, let's talk about who manages what, and it is also called as uh, RASI matrix, responsibility matrix. In cloud computing, responsibilities are divided between you, the customer, and the cloud provider. So if you can see here in the IaaS, the application code is responsible, customer is responsible for that. Customer is responsible for application code in IaaS and PaaS, whereas SaaS provides in the SaaS model, cloud provider provides the software for you. You don't have to worry about the application code. And in FAAS as well, since your application is developed by you and you're just using a serverless services like function apps, then you are responsible for the application code. Similarly, there are a lot of components here, if you can see, where customer is responsible for few and cloud providers is responsible for few. So to move on, right here, if you see the platform layer, most of the components like runtime, middleware, OS is being provided by the cloud provider in PaaS, SaaS, and FAAS. In IaaS, customer or the developer or the infrastructure guys are responsible for implementing those. In the same way, for the infrastructure, IaaS, if you choose IaaS model, cloud provider provides all the virtualization, servers, storage, networking, and but in traditional on-premises, customer has to maintain everything. Security responsibilities. Customer is responsible for data security and identity and access for IaaS and PAAS, whereas in SaaS, everything is integrated. It is shared between the provider and the customer. So there are a lot of components over here under the categories of applications and data, platform layer, infrastructure, security responsibilities, right? So these models provide, these models indicates what is the responsibility of a provider and what is the responsibility of customer. It is very important to understand this when you want to adapt a cloud model in your cloud journey. Basically, it helps you to have a proper design and architecture in the initial phase. So remember that security is a shared responsibility. Even if the provider secures the infrastructure, you must ensure proper configuration, access control, and data governance, right? So, how to choose the right service model? So, how do you decide which model to use? It often depends on the three categories. So, technical requirements, where the control needs, if you have a control needs, do you need direct OS access, then go for IaaS, or prefer a managed environment, go for PAAS. Customization requirements, the more you want to customize, the closer you get to IaaS. Performance demands, some workloads require fine-grained resource controls, right? But when it comes to business requirements, it's time to market. PAAS and FAAS can speed up deployments. Budget constraints. If we have a budget constraints, the model would be SaaS can be cheaper if you just need a ready-made solution. At the same time, team expertise. If your team isn't familiar with infrastructure management, PaaS and SaaS might be easier, right? Operational requirements. So maintenance and capability. See, IaaS infrastructure service usually requires patching and updates because you are responsible for the your compute service. Even though virtualization is provided by the cloud provider, you will maintain the infrastructure. So that requires continuous maintenance and management for patching and updates. PaaS and SaaS reduce maintenance for it. That is the definition. That is the advantage. But if there is any scaling needs, FAAS automatically scales on demand. IaaS might require manual scaling and you have to put some more controls with the help of metrics and evaluation. Security requirements. Consider compliance needs and how much control you need over data security. Ultimately, security requirements is a shared responsibility of the customer and the provider. So, and what are some of, before we jump into a quick hands-on comparison, right? Here are some best practices. We know it is too overwhelming when you want to start your cloud journey. We already discussed about the migration strategies, what is a cloud, and now we are discussing about right, service model. So there are a lot of initial knowledge or skills that is required before we embrace the cloud adoption or our cloud journey. So here are some of the best practices. It's always better to start simple, right? If you are new to the cloud, begin with well understood services or smaller projects. um, Another thing is consider hybrid approaches. That means sometimes you'll have to combine. There is no one t-shirt fit all, right? You have to mix and match your requirement to these services. So you might or you will have to combine IaaS, PaaS, and even SaaS in one ecosystem. Plan for growth. Think about future scaling, right? And the skill sets your team will need. So based on that, you can adapt to right service models and migration strategies. Focus on security. Security mindset should be there from the day one you decide to move to the cloud, right? So always remember this is a shared responsibility model, but proper controls in place organization wide, like identity management and encryption. Okay, now let's look at a quick example of deploying a sample application. Right, IaaS deployment steps. Okay, see, in IaaS deployment, if you want to deploy an web application, what you will do, so you have to do a VM configuration. You have to choose the right instance size. Each of the cloud provider has their own family of compute in the name of VM or EC2 or GCE. So you have to choose right VM, right size for your VM, and right family of the VM, and then you have to do a network setup. Any VM, any resources has to be within the virtual network. You have to configure the virtual network with right address space and subnet address space with right CIDR, and configure the security groups, firewalls, or VPC or VNet settings. And we have to do the OS installation. You should know how your application has been developed and which operating system it is compatible to be deployed with. So we have to do OS installation, where you'll handle updates and patches and do the maintenance and set up runtime, install necessary runtimes like Java, .NET, Python, etc., and then application deployment. Finally, you deploy your code or application. This is about IaaS. But the differences that we are seeing here is with the PAAS, platform as a services, the deployment steps should be little different, because you are not responsible for selecting a VM or configuring network or anything that is related directly related to infrastructure. What you will do is you will just select the platform. When I say select the platform, AWS Elastic Beanstalk or Azure App Service. If you select Azure App Service, if you are in Azure, and if you select PaaS service as Azure App Service, then while creating the platform itself, you will be given a lot of options with what kind of environment that is required for your application, like Java, .NET, Python, whether it needs to be containerized. So we will delve into all these things with a real hands-on experience in the coming episodes. But here I'm trying to make you understand the difference initially at the design and architecture perspective. All right. So platform selection, we have selected the platform. Then what we'll do, we will do an application configuration. So configure environment variables and framework that is required for your application. Then, so we have the platform, we have configured the application. Then it is time to deploy. You upload or push your code often via Git. It is tightly integrated with it. You can do that. When I say Git is just a software or a method of maintaining your source code. GitHub is a software where Git is implemented, and it acts as the repository hub. Service integration. So at the end, you attach your databases or other services to your application. The key differences here would be setup time. PaaS is usually faster because you don't have to create your VM, configure the network, or install OS. I mean, that part is eliminated. And management overhead, right? IaaS requires more ongoing maintenance. Flexibility. IaaS gives you more control, whereas PaaS abstracts many details. Cost implication. PaaS might be more cost effective at smaller scale. IaaS can be cheaper if you manage everything efficiently. Okay. So with this, I would like to thank you. And that's it for our overview of cloud service models. We covered IaaS, PaaS, SaaS, and FAAS. Looked at how to choose right model and even compared a quick hands-on deployment. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe. Feel free to comment below if you have any questions or if you want to share your own cloud adoption stories. Stay tuned for our next episode in the Cloud Mastery series, where we will continue exploring best practices to help you succeed in the cloud. Thanks for watching, and see you next time on Ops on Cloud.